If you told old man Grant Harrington, the guy who owned half the skyline in Ridgeport City, that a sleepless night would flip his world upside down, he probably would have laughed and poured another glass of expensive scotch. But that night at 2:58 a.m., wandering through the echoing hallways of his giant house, he found something he never expected. Something he couldn't unsee. And it all started with a sound so tiny he almost ignored it, a soft clink, like a glass touching stone. Grant froze. Nobody should have been awake. His estate was basically a fortress. Alarms. Cameras. Motion sensors. The whole 9 yards. But he wasn't hearing danger. He was hearing chores. He followed the noise through the hallway, down the stairs, past the portraits of dead Harrington ancestors glaring at him like he'd disappointed them again. And there, in the huge stainless steel kitchen built for charity galas and holiday parties he never attended, stood a girl. 17. Small. Exhausted. Her back hunched over a sink overflowing with dishes from last night's banquet. Hands red from the hot water. Shoulders trembling like she'd been holding her breath for hours. Her name, he didn't know her name yet. But she'd change his life. She noticed him and gasped so hard she dropped the plate she was holding, then caught it with a reflex like she'd been practicing for years. Terrified. That was her whole face. And Grant, who'd spent decades reading CEOs, lawyers, senators, sharks, recognized the look instantly. Fear you learn young. Fear that stays with you. Fear of people with power. He cleared his throat. You want to tell me who you are? The girl swallowed hard. I'm Lily, sir. Lily Collins. My mom is your housekeeper. He blinked. Housekeeper's daughter. Should be home. Should be in bed. Should definitely not be elbow deep in someone else's dishes at nearly 3 in the morning. Why are you here? He asked. Your mom know you're doing this? Lily shook her head so fast her ponytail slapped her cheek. She's sick, sir. I didn't want her to get in trouble. Her voice cracked, not dramatically, just the way someone's voice cracks after life has squeezed them too tight. Grant looked at the mountain of dishes. Looked at her raw hands. Looked at her oversized sweatshirt and worn-through sneakers. And something didn't add up. Kids lie all the time, he knew that. But this was a strategic lie, the kind meant to protect rather than deceive. The kind he used to tell when he was broke and ashamed. He told her to go home. She resisted, instinctively, like a soldier refusing to abandon post, but eventually she left, shoulders sagging under a heavy backpack that looked like it had lived 3 lives already. And as the door closed behind her, something gnawed at Grant's chest. A feeling he hated. Curiosity wrapped in concern. The worst combination for a man who preferred problems he could buy his way out of. But sleep? Impossible. He sat in his study until sunrise, replaying every detail. The fear. The dishwashing. The lie. The backpack. The way she flinched when he mentioned school. By morning, he'd made up his mind. He got his assistant, Rick, a man so efficient he practically breathed spreadsheets, on the phone. Find out what's going on with Lily Collins, Grant said. Everything. Rick didn't question it. He never did. But later that afternoon, when he walked into Grant's office with a thin file held like it weighed 100 pounds, even Rick looked shaken. Sir, you need to see this. Lily, it turned out, wasn't just a good student. She was the student. Top of her class at Ridgeport High. 4.0 GPA. National Scholar finalist. Full ride to Eastfield University, one of the best in the country. Or, she had a full ride. Until she vanished from school 27 days earlier. No notices. No explanations. Just disappeared. When Grant asked what happened to the scholarship, Rick swallowed. She missed the acceptance deadline, sir. It's gone. That hit Grant harder than he expected. Wasting potential, he couldn't stomach that. It was the one sin money couldn't fix retroactively. But the other shoe hadn't dropped yet. Rick opened another document. Lily's mom, Maria Collins, wasn't dealing with a cold. She had a severe autoimmune disorder. Needed medication that cost more than rent. Insurance denied. No second job. No savings. The phone disconnected to save money. Lily had dropped everything, her future, her school, her sleep, to keep her mother alive. Grant sat back, stunned in a way he hadn't been in years. It wasn't the tragedy that hit him hardest. It was the photo Rick slid across the desk. A worn, framed picture Lily carried everywhere. A man in military uniform, standing with a squad from the 45th Airborne Division. And on the back, written in fading ink, "To the Collins family, he never let me down." Grant's breath caught. Not because he recognized the soldier. But because he recognized the handwriting. He reached into a drawer, pulled out a box he hadn't opened in a decade, and held a letter written in that same handwriting. From the same man. Written to Grant's mother 50 years ago when Grant's older brother died overseas. The soldier in Lily's photo had comforted Grant's family when they were drowning. And now his granddaughter was drowning. And nobody had thrown her a rope. Grant closed the file. "Get me their address," he said quietly. That evening, Grant found Maria Collins in a tiny apartment that barely had heat. He'd seen poverty before, he grew up in it, but this was something else. Not dirty. Not chaotic. Just, hopeless. Maria tried to stand when she saw him, but pain forced her back down. "Please," she whispered, thinking she was about to be fired. "Don't punish Lily. It's my fault." Grant shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "It's my turn to take responsibility." Maria didn't understand. Not yet. But she would. And Lily. Lily wasn't home. She was working a night shift at a rundown diner across town. So Grant went there himself. And when he walked in, he saw her. Speed walking from booth to booth, balancing a tray far too heavy for her thin arms, wearing a uniform with someone else's name stitched on the pocket. Tired. Mechanical. 16 hours awake, maybe more. And then their eyes met. She froze. She dropped the tray. Plates shattered across the floor. The whole diner went silent. The manager, a sweaty, red-faced man named Carl, stormed over shouting about incompetence and coming out of your paycheck. Grant stepped between them like a wall. "That's enough," he said. Carl opened his mouth to argue. One look at Grant shut it. Money talks, sure. But authority screams. Grant helped Lily up. Her hands were shaking. She tried to apologize, not for the broken plates, but for existing. He walked her out, ignoring the manager entirely. Once in the car, he cleaned her cut hand with the patience of someone who hadn't been patient in decades. She cried. Not dramatically. Just, the exhausted kind of crying you can't hold back anymore. And finally, she told him everything. The illness. The bills. The scholarship she threw away because what good was a future if her mom didn't have one. Grant listened. And something softened in him. Something he thought he'd buried with his brother. He drove her home. Walked her upstairs. Faced Maria and told her the truth, your daughter has been sacrificing her life to save yours. And I won't let either of you drown. Maria cried. Lily cried. And before Grant left the apartment, he laid out the plan. Not a suggestion. A blueprint. Tomorrow morning at 9, he said, a car will take you to the best specialist in the state. It's already arranged. No bills. No insurance fights. No debt. He turned to Lily. And you will return to school. Rick will handle the administrators. Your exams will be rescheduled. Your scholarship will be reinstated. Lily shook her head. But, the deadlines, Grant said, bend for the right reasons. And then he told them why he was doing it. He pulled out the old letter the soldier had written to his mother decades ago. The man who stood by Grant's brother until the end, was Lily's grandfather. I owe your family a debt, he said. One I've carried for 50 years. And I intend to repay it. From that day on, everything changed. Maria got treatment. Lily returned to school. Passed her exams. Graduated valedictorian. Her speech wasn't about success. It was about unseen kindness, the kind that ripples through generations. And in the crowd, Grant, the billionaire who once thought money solved everything, stood beside Maria, clapping like he didn't own a single company. Just a family he finally honored. Summer came. Classes approached. Lily left for Eastfield University with a new laptop, a new start, and an old photograph Grant handed her, her grandfather and Grant's brother, side by side. Remember what you're made of, he told her. And she did. Because the truth was simple, sometimes the people we overlook, become the people who survive the impossible. And sometimes the people with everything, are the ones who finally learn what everything actually means. But here's the part that still sparks debate, and I want you to weigh in. Grant hired Maria to oversee a foundation supporting veterans' families, a job with real power, real money, real influence. Some people cheered. Others said he crossed a line, that charity should stay charity and not turn into opportunity. So tell me, was Grant doing the right thing, or was he buying redemption he didn't earn? Should someone with power step in like that, or is it unfair to everyone else who struggles without a billionaire showing up at 3 a.m.? Drop your take in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories that peel back the layers of power, pride, and the people who get caught in between, hit like, subscribe, and let's talk about the things most folks pretend not to see.